hey there, Marie Greene from Olive Knits here, and today I'm going to show you how to work Kitchener stitch to close live stitches. This is a great way to seal the toe of a sock because it creates an invisible graft and it just looks really slick. You can use it in other capacities as well, anytime you're trying to join live stitches. Now, I want to give you just a little heads up. It does take a little bit of practice to get good at this. So if you've never done this before, I'm going to recommend that you cast on about 24 stitches, join in the round and knit about 1.5 inches, and then divide your stitches evenly. I've got 12 stitches on each of my needles here, and make sure your yarn is positioned the way you see it here. This will give you a piece to practice on, and then you won't feel as stressed if you have to do it over and over a few times to get the hang of it, rather than trying it for the very first time on the toe of your sock. So I just want to throw that idea out there. It's a really great way to give yourself a chance to practice without worrying if something's going to go wrong. All right, so we actually have to do a little setup first. So we're going to do that, and then we will get busy working our Kitchener stitch down our little pretend toe here. All right, so to begin, we're going to insert the tip of our third needle into the first stitch on this front needle, and we're going to knit that stitch, pull the yarn all the way through, and I've left myself a pretty decent length of yarn here. Pull that yarn all the way through and leave that stitch right on the needle. All right, and then kind of bring the yarn through so you don't get it caught up around your needle there. And we're going to purl the first stitch on the back facing needle. And we're going to also leave that in place and pull that all the way through. So now we have this setup in place. And now we're going to work on the repeat process that we'll do down the remainder so that we can close these live stitches, grafting them together invisibly. All right, so now we're ready. We're going to go back to this first stitch on the front needle, and we're going to purl this stitch. Last time we knit it, this time we're purling it. All right, so purl, slip that through, and then drop it off. Okay, now we're going to go into the next stitch still on the front needle. We're not going back to the back yet, still here. So we're going to be 2 times here, and then we're going to go 2 times there. And we're going to knit this next stitch, pull it all the way through, but leave it on there. All right, so the first one, we purled it, we took it off, then we knit it, and we left it on. Okay, but we're pulling the yarn through every single time. All right, now we're going to go back to the back needle. And I do want to mention this feels a little awkward because you can feel the yarn straining, like it doesn't think it should go that direction. Don't worry, you're not doing it wrong just because it might feel that way. That's just kind of how it is. All right, so now we're on the back needle. So we're going to start with a knit. And we're going to knit, pull it through, slip it off. And then we're going to purl, still on the back needle, pull it through, leave it on. All right, those are the steps, and we'll keep repeating those steps all the way down. Now, I'm putting the words on the screen too, because sometimes reading it also helps make it stick a little better than just hearing it or watching it. So let's go ahead and do this process again. Now we're ready to go back to the front, and we're going to purl, drop it off. Remember, we're working twice on each needle now. Knit, leave it on. Now we're going to go to the back needle, and we're going to knit, drop it off, purl, leave it on. All right, then back to the front. My thread's a little long, so it's getting a little unruly. That's okay. We're back to the front here. We're going to purl, drop it off, knit, leave it on. Now to the back. knit, drop it off, purl, leave it on. Notice we're getting a little bit of a rhythm going, and I'm just going to say this right now. Practice, practice, practice. It's going to feel so awkward at first. Don't worry about it. Just write this down. Write down the words you see on the screen here, and then read them out loud to yourself as you're doing it. It really will start to stick, I promise. Okay, we're going to go back to the front now, and we're going to purl, drop it off, knit, leave it on. Now to the back. Knit, drop it off, purl, leave it on. Notice how we go from knit in the front, and the very next thing we do on the back is knit on the back, and we end with purl on the back, and when we come to the front, we're purling on the front. Purl, drop it off, knit, leave it on. Now to the back. It's not super quick, is it? That's okay. All right, to the back, and we are going to knit, and then we're going to drop that off, and then we're going to purl and leave it on. Then to the front, we're going to purl, drop it off, then we're going to knit and leave it on. To the back, we're going to knit and drop it off. Then we're going to purl, leave it on. Now I know this is kind of slow and probably feels kind of tedious watching me do the whole thing, but I also think sometimes these tutorial videos only show you once or twice. And for this particular one, honestly, watching it all the way down, I think is really helpful when you're trying to learn. Okay, we're back to the front needle now. So we're going to purl. And if you've already got the hang of it, feel free to move on and go give it a try. Okay, purl, slip it off. Knit, leave it on. All right, we finished with the knit there. So what do we do on the back? We knit first. Make sure you're pulling your working yarn tight enough as you do this. I'm kind of losing my grip here because I'm getting to the end of my needles. Knit, pull it off, purl, leave it on. We're so close, so close. All right, we're back to the front now. We are going to purl, slip it off, knit, leave it on. Now I'm just gonna say, maybe you don't need your tail quite as long as mine. I went a little robust with my tail there. So, all right, back to the back. We're gonna start with a knit, slide it off, then a purl, leave it on. Oh my goodness, we're so close. All right. We are bringing this back here, and we're going to purl in the front and slide it off. Then we're going to knit in the front. Trying to maneuver with my little needles here. We're running out of room. Knit, leave it on. We're going to go to the back. We're going to start with a knit, and you're going to notice too that we're decreasing the stitches away consistently. So dropping a stitch from the front, dropping a stitch from the back. And you'll kind of get the hang of it because you'll start to remember that you're always starting with a purl on the front needle and starting with a knit on the back needle. And knowing that you always go from one to the other is really, really helpful. So, all right, we are so close. Purling. And not gonna lie, once you get down to just a couple of stitches left, it is a little wonky. All right, drop that one off. Knit, leave it on. Super, super tricky to hold on to, but you can do it. We're going to go to the back now. We're going to knit that first stitch, and we're going to drop that off. Try not to lose anything here, and then we're going to purl that very last stitch. Again, I know this is starting to look a little bit goofy, but we are almost finished. Purl, leave it on. Okay, now we are going to purl this stitch, and we now don't need that front needle. And now we're on the back, and we're going to knit that last stitch, and we can pull that out as well. Okay, look at this. We've done it. Look at this nice Kitchener we've done here, and we can just take this extra thread here, tuck it to the wrong side, and pull it through and weave it in nice and tight. So that's how we get a nice Kitchener closure on live stitches. Great for a toe, great for a top of a mitt or other things like that. Now, if you find that this is a little too fiddly for you, you can also do a Russian graft, and that's pretty simple. It calls for a crochet hook, and I'll make sure and link to that in the notes so that you can try that one and see which one you like best.